Another woo. We're good. We're good. Take it away, Jeremy. Please welcome Jeremy Kauffman, everybody.
All right. Hi, I'm Jeremy Kauffman. I'm here to talk about the future of digital content, and as you might expect at a blockchain conference, it may involve a blockchain. One meta comment before I begin and talk about LBRY a little bit. I am very pro interruption. If you have a question, someone else probably has the question as well. I present to a lot of different audiences, and I'm not always sure exactly where the audience is at. So don't hesitate. If you have a question, if you want to know something, it's not a huge audience. It's not going to get out of control. So please ask a question if you have one. So I'm here to talk to you about LBRY. And I'm going to talk a little bit first about the motivations behind the creation of LBRY. Now, I'm a child of the internet. I've been on the internet since I was about 8 or 9 years old, which is like the early 1990s. And I'm not really happy with the direction that the internet has gone from the internet that I used to use and love. I see more and more the internet being controlled by a small number of companies, and those companies exert a tremendous amount of influence over the way that we're able to share and interact with one another. And a lot of LBRY is a reaction to that. So yeah, this, by the way, LBRY is funded by a VC, and they took my original slides, and they're like, these slides are garbage, Jeremy. We need better graphics. So I'm going to get the money out of that. So these are the four horsemen of the apocalypse here that are ruining the internet. And I'm inclined to agree, right? It's crazy. Like all of these companies, they treat you like you're cattle, kind of. They don't treat you like you have a choice over what you do. And a lot of what LBRY is all about leaving choices in the hands of creators and end users. So here's the way that digital content on the internet tends to work. Now, some of this focuses on YouTube. LBRY moves things other than just videos, but videos where we've been getting a lot of traction. So right now on YouTube, YouTubers, they pay, on YouTube specifically, YouTubers lose about 45% of their money to Google. Regardless of whether you're on YouTube or you're on other kinds of mediums, you're talking about losing 30 to as much as 55% of every dollar that you earn. This is kind of crazy, right? Like, it's not that hard to move a series of bits around from machine A to machine B, and yet somehow you have middlemen taking half of the profit from the creation of a movie or a video. And this is not just me that has a problem with this. YouTubers have a ton of trouble with this. Prior to starting LBRY, I did SaaS sales, and sometimes you would have to convince your customer that they had a problem. When I talk to YouTubers, there's no need to convince them that they have a problem. They're already scared. They're already nervous. They're already concerned about the fact that the rules of the game can change on them at any second, and their entire livelihood is at stake because of that. And consequently, we've gotten a lot of love from YouTubers. So let's talk about LBRY and how this can fix it. So the problems with centralized technology is that it ultimately becomes hostile to users, and it ultimately becomes rent-seeking. I could talk about this for the rest of the presentation, but just as a couple of trivial examples, Facebook Messenger works perfectly fine if you use it on the web. Try to pull up the Messenger website on your phone. They actively block you from using a website to get you to download their app. This is not them saying, hey, the app is a better experience. This is them saying, we have so much control over you that we're going to take this perfectly functional product and spend our engineering time to break it. It's insanity. It's insanity. And it's not, and you could go over examples with every major website, right? YouTube's incentive in the way that they recommend videos, it's not to get you to watch things that you'll really like. It's to get you to keep clicking. And in addition to the hostility and the rent-seeking, we also have issues of censorship and interference, right? YouTube is happy to turn over the keys to China when they want to be in China. Other major tech companies are happy to turn over the keys to censorious regimes and so on. And there's also a question of trust. One of the things that LBRY promises is that creators are going to get 100% of the price that they set for their content. Now, if I was a for-profit private company promising that, everyone would be skeptical because, right, it's a bait and switch, right? All of these companies were good when they were young, right? Like, it's only once they became established that they started treating you this way. And so by creating this technology as an open source, extremely liberally licensed, we're MIT licensed, you can trust it because guess what? If one day LBRY wants to start becoming jerks to the people who use it, you just fork the code. You just take the code, you just go elsewhere. We don't have the ability to create that lock-in that other centralized platforms can do. Now, if we look at decentralized technology, decentralized ways of exchanging data, these worked pretty well for exchanging data. We had technologies like, now we can talk about concerns with BitTorrent from other perspectives, but as a technology, BitTorrent works really well. Like, I'm a computer scientist, that's my background. BitTorrent is a beautiful, wonderful technology, but in the case and there are very other innovative peer-to-peer algorithms as well. But there are a couple of problems with them that blockchain can help fix. So if we look at BitTorrent specifically, one of the big problems is discovery. If I have a hash is like a unique value. If I have a hash and I contact the BitTorrent network, I can find that content with very high reliability. But there's no way to search what's available on these decentralized networks. There's no ability to discover what's been published to them. Now, a blockchain fundamentally is a decentralized database. It's a database that reaches a state of consensus without any one party exerting control over it. That's a perfect design for discovery. We can now have a shared global database that anyone can publish an entry to, anyone can search and discover against, that's not fully owned or controlled by anyone, including us. Other problems with existing decentralized technology have been incentives. So existing peer-to-peer technology and existing distributed technology works basically because people are nice or because they don't understand how it works. Now, I think it's great that this stuff works, but if we can do better than it working just because people are nice. And a consequence of the existing technology is that things will disappear over time and things might not last. And we believe that incentives can help solve that. And a third problem with existing decentralized peer-to-peer technology is infringement, right? It's basically, if you look at BitTorrent, there's a lot of infringing content on there. It hasn't really been adopted by the mainstream. And I actually think this relates to the other ones. It's difficult to build, even if you are a creator and even if you like the idea of BitTorrent, there's not a clear way to make money on top of it. And we believe that blockchain can help fix all of these things. So that's right. It's time to take back control, and we think LBRY can help do that, right? LBRY is all about leaving end users in control and granting more freedom to the people who both create stuff and consume stuff. So let's look. I'm gonna show you now. LBRY is unlike a lot of other blockchain products out there. This is not a speculative product. I've opened the LBRY app here. I actually will frequently call this the world's most boring demo. Because if it works well, it's nothing new, right? We've all seen a screen full of tiles with images and titles, and we all understand that, if we click one, we can play a video. Okay, so we're not trying to innovate at the level of UI or anything like that, right? There are lots of companies who've spent billions of dollars discovering the best UIs, and we're happy to copy them. What's innovative about this, though, is this entire, and I should have done one that was a purchase, but what we can do now is entirely decentralized. All of this is decentralized. Not just the data, which we had that before, but the discovery itself and the payment itself is also decentralized. And everyone at our company is really, really excited about this. This is a brand new thing. This is something that was not possible before the innovation of blockchain. And so what the LBRY blockchain is I'll leave this up a little bit more. It's a public proof of work blockchain. Basically, what we do is we use that blockchain to allow people to make entries about digital content that they've created. Other people can search and discover content on there, and if that content has a price, then they'll pay that creator for the price, that price, in order to access it. Yeah.
Is it a blockchain of just metadata?
Yes. Yes. So you couldn't fit the metadata in the blockchain. I'll tell you, strictly technically speaking, the library blockchain actually doesn't even perform much enforcement rules over what you put in there. Basically, you're mapping a plain English name, a series of UTF-8 characters, if I'm getting technically specific, to you have 8 kilobytes of storage. You have 8 kilobytes of metadata. If you and you could technically at the blockchain level put anything you want in there. If you comply to the standard that and I'll get to the, let's see, is it next? Yeah. Okay. So let's. Sorry? It's mining based, that's correct. So here I'll talk about a little bit about the different layers of the ecosystem and how it works, and I think that this will clarify some of this. So at the lowest level, LBRY uses a public proof of work blockchain. That blockchain maintains a catalog of content, and it maintains the balances of both, well, creators, anyone who has a balance. It's similar to Bitcoin in that way. In fact, so LBRY blockchain went live in 2016. It was a fork of Bitcoin originally. It's been modified substantially to serve the purpose of metadata storage related to digital content. One of the things that was really important to us is that someone be able to perform a resolution trustfully without having a full copy of the blockchain. And that basically means creating for those who are familiar with the intricacies of Bitcoin, creating a separate Merkle tree specifically for purposes of storing the metadata associated with content. And so what this means is anyone in the world can make an entry to the blockchain. Anyone else in the world can search that. And no one can edit or change that information from the blockchain other than the publisher. That is, including us, right? So anyone can make that entry. So in the blockchain, there's just metadata, and inside of that metadata is a pointer to the LBRY data network. Okay, so the LBRY data network is the next level up. The LBRY data network is a peer-to-peer network of incentivized hosts. So when I'm running this application, I'm actually acting as a host. Parties can also act as a host without running the application. And what this means is we can allow market properties to set the rights of, we can rely on market properties to ensure that data is available and available in a performant manner. It's not specifically BitTorrent. It does use a DHT. One difference between our network and the BitTorrent network is in the LBRY network, data chunks are just anonymous chunks. In the BitTorrent network, chunks are identifiably part of the larger whole. So if you're acting as a host in the LBRY network, basically you just see people requesting these data chunk hashes. Data chunks are typically 1 to 2 megabytes in size. And you can just observe them, and you can rehost them as you see fit and attempt to maximize your return in doing so. At the level above this is actual applications. So this is an example of a LBRY application. For the engineers who work on this application, it's just like working on a website. Right? You use the LBRY daemon as an API that you can call to, but this app is just written in JavaScript and CSS the same way any other website is. Now, there's other applications that can be built as well, and I'll show you another one. So this is the website. This is the website Speech, spe.ch. This is another LBRY application, and this was actually originally built by a LBRY community member who later became a LBRY team member. And I'm realizing that I really should have plugged my laptop in, so I'm going to do that before. Oh, fuck. Well, that's going to be bad news. I feel like my battery's going to die here. And I think I left my power cord downstairs. Well, we'll keep going, and I'll switch if necessary. Hopefully we'll be okay. So this is Speech. This is a website that's a lot like Imager, or Streamable, or other places where you can dump an image or a video and share it with others. The difference is when you upload an image or a video to Speech, it's being written to the LBRY blockchain. Anyone else can download, search, and access it. And this is way superior than using these other websites, right? If I upload an image or a video to Streamable or Imager or these other websites, I'm surrendering it. I'm trusting that company to continue to do a good job continuing to provide that service. They can change the rules on me at any time. Now, could Speech change the rules on you at any time? Technically, it could. Speech is a website. It's a centralized server running somewhere. But ultimately, all Speech is doing is searching, reading, and serving data from the larger LBRY network. So if Speech changes the rules, anyone can fork it. Anyone can make a new version of it. Anyone can do the same thing that Speech did. So there's not an ability for speech to collect all your content and then say, hey, it's $5 or whatever to continue to use this service. Because when you publish something via speech, it's out there in the public for anyone to search and discover. It's not just being written to one server or one computer and being owned by that party. So I'm going to give the most technical slide. This is the one they didn't fix. So what happens when a piece of content is actually accessed? So LBRY provides a whole naming scheme. So we provide URLs. When you publish a piece of content to the LBRY network, you get a URL. It's a nice English readable URL. It's a lot like HTTP URLs. So you would have LBRY : it's a disaster, right? That's a film that's available on the LBRY network. It stars David Cross and Julia Stiles and is put out by a Hollywood studio. If I look up that piece of content, I make this request to the larger network that says, who has metadata related to this? And a node responds with the metadata. They say things like, this is the title of the movie. This is who's in it. This is the price. I know that that metadata is correct due to some of the properties that I talked about earlier. If I choose to buy it, two simultaneous things happen at once. One, I go out and I collect the data from hosts. I say who has the data, and I'm trying to get the data as cheaply as possible. By the way, the data is typically free. The default behavior of hosts, everyone who installs LBRY is hosting for free. That's the way we default set you up. So data is most frequently free, but it could conceivably have a cost. And then the client is going to make a payment to be able to decrypt the content. And that's all going to happen in parallel. And then I'm going to be able to stream the content. Now, if this seems complicated, if any of this seems complicated, the truth is you don't need to understand any of it, right? If I go back to this application, no. I might. Do you just have the other? Yeah, that'd be great. So if I were to go back to that application, you don't need to understand any of this. Everyone understands having a balance. Everyone understands how to click a title and access something. Everyone understands how to pay for something. You don't need to understand the magic. And in fact, that's part of the problem with blockchain technology. Right? Everyone talks about how do you keep your credit secure and how do you do off-chain wallets, and blockchain is so dangerous. We want to build consumer applications that are really easy for anyone to understand and use. You don't need to understand what's significant about blockchain to understand how to use the types of applications that we're building. And I think that that's really important. Right? We don't want to have to. Blockchain is magical from a technological perspective, but it's a problem if people have to understand what's magical about it in order to use it. Right? And so I want to create something, and what we want to create is something that people are just excited to use. I pull it up. There's things that I'm interested in looking at. I click them, I watch them. I earn magic internet points. That number seems to go up. I can spend them to access stuff. You don't need to know what's so significant about this at the technological level to have a positive experience. Using LBRY. Yeah. So the publisher controls the price, and a significant amount of the content on the LBRY network is free, right? So you can think of a free publish to the LBRY network as being like the BitTorrent case, but with discovery, with a database that you can search, and then there's an additional ability to price things. It's free to you to upload. Now, okay, actually, sorry, let me clarify. It is a transaction to make a publish. Okay, so you could do a transaction for an extremely small amount. If there's a transaction fee, you're still going to have to pay the transaction fee. So it's not literally zero. Right now, if you want to publish something to the LBRY network, I'm going to guess it's going to cost you at least a tenth of a penny but it's pretty affordable. I think. Yes, so you have to, and we've had over, I think there's around 200,000 pieces of content published to the LBRY blockchain currently, including some pieces of content. Here, actually, I'll talk about this. So let's talk about some of the things that have happened so far with LBRY. We've had over 200,000 people use the LBRY application and the website Speech. We have also, I think it's actually closer to 150,000 pieces of content available on the LBRY network. This includes films from Hollywood that include film stars such as James Franco, David Cross, and more. We have a number of YouTubers. I think we're at like a dozen or so YouTubers with 1 million or more subscribers. These include YouTubers like Casually Explained, Great A Under A, Eli the Computer Guy. We've gone after YouTubers that specifically are of interest to our audience, and given that we're a beta stage blockchain project, you can probably guess who those kinds of people are. A lot of the people in this room. LBRY has been covered by Bloomberg, NASDAQ, National Review, Reason, Hacker News, Boing Boing. We were on Russia Today, and a number of other places. That was contentious in our company that we were going on Russia Today. I mentioned some of these great YouTubers. I forgot to mention that we have John Cleese as well. But the total number of we have over 5,000 YouTubers who are mirroring every piece of content that they create to the LBRY network. The total subscribers of all of those YouTubers is in the tens of millions. There is one particular news event that got a decent amount of press, which was there were 20,000 Berkeley College lectures that Berkeley was going to delete from the internet. They're going to delete them from the internet due to an ADA challenge over subtitling those videos. Those videos happened to be Creative Commons licensed, so our team was like, let's mirror them to the LBRY network. And we got some very positive press for that because it was sad to see 20,000 college lectures go away. They're now written to the decentralized web, and I suspect that they will live there for a very long time. So those are stopped via the same mechanisms that we stopped at today, right? We do not have a way of distributing digital data and preventing people from copying it. I know that people would like it if such a technology exists, but it doesn't, okay? Does it work? Does it come close? How many minutes does it take from Netflix publishing the new series of House of Cards for it to be available on BitTorrent? It's about 5 minutes in my experience, okay? So it doesn't work. It's not possible. All right.
So the question is, I can see the incentive for the content creators to be on it. What is the incentive for the market?
Well, I mean, let me ask you, as a video watcher, would you prefer a platform where things may disappear for reasons other than the creator or your choices, or would you prefer a platform that doesn't have those properties?
It has a little less to do with what I would like versus what the market as a whole does. With a certain amount of animosity, a certain amount of, well, if I can get it for free, then why don't I?
Well, that's the perspective that some people have. According to my research, there's about 10% of people who will pirate content or infringe on content regardless of whether it's available legally. There's about 60% of people who won't infringe no matter what. That is, they won't even consider it. And then there's about 30% of people, and these are all approximate. It's difficult to get exact data, but according to my research, it's about 30% of people that will that are infringers of convenience. They infringe because Downton Abbey was released 6 months earlier in Britain than it was in the United States, and their fiance wants to watch it. I mean, I'm not speaking from experience, but that's just a theoretical example. Yeah, look, I want to pay creators. This technology is a failure if creators don't make more money off of it. I think that given that the margins that they're losing are so large, even if there's a small amount of piracy, I think that the creators still come up on top. And also, let's remember, it's not as if there's an alternative. We don't have a way of stopping this already. So I'm gonna continue to take questions, but I will just plug. you can try our product. It's not a wallet, right? You don't have to get our wallet and get our credits. You can download our actual application. You can watch 150,000 different things. Well, they're not all videos, but there's 150,000 different things you can access. They're mostly videos. We offer credits to people who download the app, so you can get some fun rewards for participating in the ecosystem. If you're an engineer, all of our code is open source and MIT licensed. We've had over 150 different contributors contribute to the LBRY code base. We reward everyone who makes a contribution in cryptocurrency, and there's a really cool open source community that's been growing around this project. We have a live chat room where you can interact with thousands of other people who use LBRY. That's at chat.lbry.io. We're on social media on the usual places, including Twitter, since that's where all crypto social media seems to happen. And I'm also very publicly available. You can email me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me in any number of places. And I'm always interested in interacting with people who are interested in the things that are going on in this space. So I think that's my last slide. Yep. So does anyone have? There were still some more questions. I'm going to go to you because I know you were eager.
Time. This is actually one question.
This is the last. This got to be good because this is the only one.
Pressure.
I think there are ways that monetization could happen in other methods. I mean, especially since blockchain scaling is an unsolved problem. If LBRY had millions of people trying to pay for content over the LBRY network, it would have the same problem that other blockchain projects have. So fortunately or unfortunately, that's not a problem for us. But I think that it's definitely possible that will happen. It's all, and because we see this as an internet infrastructure play, we don't see ourselves as a content company. I mean, this could change, but I don't see LBRY going the Netflix route and trying to produce its own content. This is internet infrastructure. So if YouTube wanted to use LBRY, I'd be like, 2 thumbs up, YouTube, we endorse that, right? LBRY is a way of searching what's available on the network and moving bits around, and that's fundamentally what it does. One more comment, since I think there was an implied question about advertising in there. LBRY does endorse advertising. The way that advertising would work in the LBRY model, you price your content at what you actually get for an ad view, which on YouTube is something like maybe 1/10 of a penny. And what could happen is that an advertiser could subsidize that view for you. So you would then have the choice, do I want to pay 1/10 of a penny or do I want to watch a 10-second ad? And you might think everyone wants to pay 1/10 of a penny, but the truth is 70% of people would rather watch a 10-second ad. All right. Thank you, everyone. That was a crash course on LBRY. If you have more questions, I'm happy to talk.
Give it up for Jeremy Kauffman, everybody.